best way of roasting these is actually keep them on the vine. In the pan with the mushrooms. Right. Just let those mushrooms and tomatoes sit there in the pan on a low heat and they'll cook themselves. Nothing worse than going into...
Now it's going to have some other lovely ingredients. The first one is this one, which is tahini paste, and that is pulped sesame seeds, and it has a lovely
Omelets
rich
are fantastic.
flavour.
They're cheap, they're flexible, you can use all sorts of different things, crispy bacon, mushrooms, tomatoes, cheeses, you name it. I think omelettes are the kind of thing that don't really get the sort of credit they're due, actually. If they're cooked beautifully, they are incredible. They're cheap.
What I make when I want to shimmer into Italian mama mode. It's time consuming, but I don't apologise for that here, simply because there's no point in making fresh pasta or meatballs unless you really want to enjoy the process and sort of throw yourself into the activity.
How has the recession affected eating habits? Every time we hear the news or read a paper, we are told that the cost of food is rising and that we are all having to literally tighten our belts in these times of economic austerity. But for some people, this is nothing new. Jean and John Winter lived through food rationing during the difficult economic years after the Second World War.
We never saw fresh fruit like a lemon or an orange or a banana from about 1939 to 1952. But babies could have at least one bottle of orange juice a month. I think it was something like that. Anybody born after the introduction of the National Health Service in 1947.
To deal with shortages, the Ministry of Food brought in a system of rationing. In order to buy most rationed items, people had to register at chosen shops and were then given a ration book containing coupons. The shopkeeper was provided with enough food for registered customers. Everyone had to take ration books with them when they went shopping, so the relevant coupon could be cancelled. This was a way of making sure the small amount of food available was shared fairly.
Even bread was rationed, sugar was rationed, flour was rationed, and so to say you had a game pie bears no relation to the pastry that my young family are used to today. It was more like cardboard.
But times were getting better, and in the 1950s you could eat out, but not in the way we know today.
Basically, there weren't many choices. The main avenue for eating was the British restaurants, which were set up all over the country by the government, and there were set menus, and you had what they were offering, as far as I recall. Woolton Pie was one, named after Lord Woolton, the food minister, and I just can't remember what it involves there.
Well, I can tell you it was a pie made of seasonal vegetables, such as swede, carrot and cauliflower, topped off with potato pastry. The pastry was difficult to work with and turned grey if left too long after it was made. Not top of our list for eating out today. Student Rosie Allen.
When I go out, I like to eat a number of things. I generally go to foreign restaurants. It's never really English food I go for. I like traditional things like pizza, and Nando's is a favourite.
But does she eat out as much as she did?
I remember sort of when I was about 18, and I'm now 23, so we're looking at 5 years ago, I used to be able to get like quite a decent meal for about a fiver. And then if you were going to drink, you're looking at £10. Whereas now you're looking at £10 for the meal. And then if you want wine on top of that, you're looking at 15, 20. And £20 is my sort of shopping budget for the week as a student. And I really can't afford to be spending that during one night.
So it's hard to afford meals out today on a student budget, but is this the same for everyone else? Considering the average shopping basket costs £58.25, 14% higher than figures taken in 2007, is everyone struggling to eat, or is it mainly students and young people? Paul Baker, chef proprietor of Kingham's restaurant in Shear, explains his views.
Most of our customers are probably aged between 45 and 75, which is a good place to be in the market because they're more or less recession proof. So when it's their birthday, they're still going to come out for a special meal, and their weekly, monthly or twice a year treat is to come out for a nice meal.
All right for some. But if they do have the money to go out more frequently, what dish do they like to order? I asked Paul what his signature dish was.
Well, funny enough, a lot of people ask me that same question, what's my signature dish? And I always say the same thing, that I don't have a signature dish, for the simple reason that the menu here is always changing, and I very rarely put the same dish on twice. So to try and keep things interesting for the restaurant, the customers, and also to keep things interesting for myself, I very rarely repeat the same dish.
Well, if he doesn't have a signature dish, what is it that people like to order most?
The most popular dishes, we do a lot of fish here, we do a lot of fresh game here. For example, we've got a medley of game on at the moment, which is a pigeon breast, a piece of venison, and some wild rabbit, which is braised and wrapped in phyllo pastry. That's very popular. We've got some fantastic sand soles in at the moment, which are fresh up from Brixham. They've been very popular. But popular things change from season as well. So you've got all the winter dishes on at the moment. In the summer, it'll be different dishes, which will be favourite dishes.
Sounds yummy. Sounds like the recession hasn't really happened in Shear.
It has affected us slightly, not that badly, I'm pleased to say. We are very lucky. We've got a good regular clientele of people that come to us sometimes once a week, once a month. I found that people are eating more off the set menu, which is the cheaper menu, and drinking more house wine as opposed to the more expensive wines, which I think is all to do with people being a bit shorter on money these days. But we're still doing good business, so it's okay.
So does Paul think the recession has meant people are eating out in the same way as before?
No, I don't. No, definitely not. And I think there's too many restaurants around right now, and I think a lot of the restaurants are going to close up soon because I can't see them all surviving.
One person who has rather bravely started a new business during this economic downturn is Jane Radford of Tilling's Tea Rooms, who had always wanted her own restaurant.
I'd been driving past this particular building for, well, probably at least a year and kept thinking, I wonder what's going to happen to that. And it used to be a really important part of the village. It was the Black Horse pub, and it's very prominent as you drive through. And I just kept thinking, do you know, that would make a fantastic location for a kind of a gathering place for people. And the best way of getting people to get together is to eat. I had always had this hankering to have some kind of cafe stroke delicatessen, one of your childhood dreams, and a little plan started formulating in my mind, and it took it from there, really. We opened last August. It was the August bank holiday, and we'd had a good year of getting the building back in shape, and we spent probably about 6 months getting the building together and getting everything right, and then we had about probably 6 weeks of sheer hell getting it put together and having lots of delays and just all the sort of things that do happen last minute. So we were determined to open at some part of the summer holiday, so we got opened on bank holiday.
But how popular is it?
It's really popular, really surprised by how popular it is, actually. We didn't get a chance to do any marketing because we'd sort of, opened and hit the ground running and thought we'll have lots of time to do that. And we've just been very lucky. We've had lots of local people come to start off with, and they've come again and again. So we've got local regulars, and gradually the net's sort of widening by word of mouth. And we do get very, very busy, particularly at weekends. It's fantastic.
So no problem getting customers then?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the Surrey Hills is quite an affluent area, there's no doubt about it. But we get all sorts of, people, young people. Not everybody has loads of money to spend on food, and a big part of our aim has always been to have affordable, good quality food. So we hope that our menu has a variety of food, so somebody can always come in and get something hot to eat at a reasonable price.
So the key to a successful restaurant in a recession is the kind of food it offers?
Well, we do, of course, do traditional breakfasts, but because we do something very simple like poached eggs on toast and scrambled eggs on toast, that's incredibly popular. It's just a really simple, traditional, inexpensive thing to sit down and enjoy with a nice cup of coffee or tea.
So if people are not eating out as much, are they eating at home instead?
Yes, you can get fantastic sort of semi-prepared meals, I would call, from places like, Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's, which are very good value. I think portion size, they're possibly pushing it a little bit, some of the things they do, but it does give you the opportunity to have a really nicely flavoured meal with pretty fresh ingredients. And I think, personally, people are probably going to try and cook from scratch a little bit more. I think really fresh ingredients are going to start coming back into it purely because it's cheaper in the long run.
Cook from scratch, fresh ingredients, isn't that what we used to do? Margaret Arminson owns a farm shop specialising in fresh local produce.
Yes, I do notice of late they're obviously going to cook something special at home because they come in with their particular list of ingredients they need, or their recipes or what have you.
And what kinds of produce are people buying?
Well, the thing is now there is so much more choice, and it's things like pak choy. We sell that on a regular basis and we wouldn't even stock it a few years ago. We can get through boxes in a week. Whereas I do remember years ago when we first started, I'd probably go into a shop and buy half a dozen aubergines just so that we'd have them, and to bring them for the shop. But things like that.
Aubergine? Pak choy? Not sure most people are eating those yet. What do people actually like to eat when they go out?
Well, when I go out now, I'd rather go to, say, a carvery where I can choose between, say, ham, turkey, beef or lamb or whatever joint is on, and a selection of vegetables, and I like to be able to choose the amount that I eat rather than have it put in front of me and I feel I've got to eat everything.
I mean, if I'm going to go out, it'll be generally to eat something which I wouldn't cook at home because either I can't be bothered or I can't do as good a job.
Well, I tend to like something different that I wouldn't normally cook myself, so we tend to go for Thai food. We love Thai food, a little bit spicy, something a bit different.
When I go out for dinner, I'm a vegetarian, so I sort of tend to really enjoy restaurants that either have really good fish, and it has to be fresh and it has to be really well cooked.
So how does Jane feel about her decision to open a restaurant in the recession?
Oh God, difficult to say, because obviously we've just been stupid and opened up a business sort of, at a really tricky time in the climate for this country. But we really thought very carefully about our menu because of the time that we're opening up. And obviously we do have to be a business, we have to be a viable business. We've got to make sure that we're not giving things away because we know we're planning for the future and we want to be here for a long time. So in general, I would say what I've found is that we have, I think, captured a little bit of a market where people can't afford to go out in the evenings so much. And if they can afford to come out for a treat during the week or, during the day or at the weekends, obviously working people, and just feel as though they've come out and met somebody or come out with a family and relaxed and had somebody else give them the food, I think that's how we've benefited, if you like, from the recession. I think that's probably what the recession is doing to restaurants and cafes at the moment. People just can't afford to eat and drink like they used to, really.
Jane Radford talking about her business, Tilling's Tea Rooms, which you can find in Gomshall near Guildford. Certainly well worth a visit, judging by the brownie I sampled there. Student Rosie Allen.
If a friend asks me to go out for something to eat, then I always want to straight away because it seems very appealing, and I guess the fact that it costs more makes me want to do it more, which is ridiculous and stupid, but I guess it feels like more of a novelty now, going out to eat, rather than just, I can't be bothered to go shopping, I'll go out and eat. It's more of a treat now.
So what's clear about our eating habits during this time of financial insecurity is that people still need to have the occasional treat, and food is something that's always going to provide that.
When we all close our